Hi, welcome to my channel. My name's Chance and it's Friday, so it's time for some hot takes. Now, this Friday, I have a just bucket full of co-op board games to talk about. For some reason, I've been playing a lot recently, and I'm not even a huge co-op gamer. I mean, I've recently reviewed Unmatched Adventures, Tales to Amaze, talked about kind of why I think that game's really good, but just not a game that's for me. And I have my other bigger video on the channel, which is the co-op paradox, where I talk about kind of how people have differing styles of fun and how they like to enjoy games, and sometimes in co-ops that can be in conflict. And, I just have a bit of impatience around some co-op games. I feel like some of them with full open information, there's not a lot to do while you're waiting for your turn to come around. So because of that, I don't really gravitate towards co-ops. But I do like to take kind of an objective look at the designs and say like why one co-op is better than the other. And there are also some that have been hits for me. And some of those they're part of this bucket full of co-ops today. So let's get into this, and I'm going to kick things off with a much smaller, much lighter co-op game. This is going to be Skyrockets. So Skyrockets is a follow-up to the game Kites, and this is a real-time cooperative game with sand timers. So in Skyrockets, you're basically putting on a fireworks show, and you are trying to keep the crowd entertained. The game comes with a bunch of scenarios, and you can play it kind of as a bit of a campaign. And you're going to get a certain number of cards. There's going to be different setups depending on the scenarios. And those cards are going to have two colors on them, two colors in the top corner. And those two colors will tell you which two sand timers you have to flip. Now, so basically you're just trying to keep the sand timers going. If any of the sand timers run out, you're going to flip over one of your crowd tokens, and one of your people that are cheering for the show, they're now going to be looking at their phone and ignoring the show. That's basically you're trying to avoid that. So you can get between 1 and 3 stars. If all the crowd tokens get flipped, you've lost the scenario. And I think this is a nice follow-up to Kites. I enjoy the fact that they have the variability of the different scenarios, and you kind of go through that campaign. And also they changed up a couple of things. Like Kites, it had 2 types of cards that either had 2 colors or 1 color. And that gave you some flexibility with what you could do, because sometimes you don't want to flip 2 timers, you only want to flip 1 timer. So I would say that 1 color one gave you a bit of flexibility. And then so in Skyrockets, with every card having 2 colors, it makes it a little more difficult. Like you don't have a choice to just flip 1 timer on your turn ever. You always have to flip at least 2 timers. So I think that's a really cool design, a neat change from Kites. But I would say that if I was to recommend one of these games, I lean towards Kites, because it's a little simpler, it's easier to teach, it's easier to get to the table. Learning Skyrockets, I'm going to admit, was a little confusing. I, for some reason, couldn't wrap my head around the campaign and the setup. Now, after I played it the first time, it was smoother. Like I was like, oh, okay, this is what these things mean, and no real issues with it at all. But I just think that Kites is a little more streamlined, and I like the fact that Kites I can pull out and we can just fit in a game. Like it's basically a co-op or real-time filler, and I love it. I also love that if you have a group that you played with a few times, you can pull out the little mini expansions in Kites, or the challenge cards, to change up the game a little bit. And I feel like that's enough variety for me. But I am excited to kind of revisit Skyrockets. I am going to keep playing it because it's a very similar experience to Kites. It just feels a little less streamlined. So yeah, I'm interested in playing Skyrockets more. But if you haven't tried out either of them, I definitely would lean towards recommending Kites for your first try if you are interested in this kind of filler real-time co-op experience. Okay, so next on my list this is a much bigger box and a much more expensive box. This is going to be Slay the Spire. Now, if you're in hobby board games, you have probably heard of this at this point. Slay the Spire is a big name. It has a video game, and then the video game is a deck builder, and then they adapted the video game to be a deck builder on the tabletop. So it's just Slay the Spire, the video game, in tabletop form. And overall, they've done a fantastic job of adapting this game. So Slay the Spire, you're going to have a character and you're going to start with some basic cards in your hand, and you have some asymmetric abilities with your characters. Like each character has its own little gimmick that it's going for. And over the course of the game, you're going to be moving up this tower. Each one of those rooms is either going to be a combat or it's going to be something like a treasure or even a shopkeeper. And your goal is to build your deck. You want to build out kind of like a cool deck with some broken combos that you can do massive amounts of damage and do some really cool stuff with. And that's kind of the point of the game. You're just going to be going through a room. At the end of the room, you're going to get a reward where you get to draw 3 cards from your own character's custom supply of cards, and you draw 3. You choose one to keep or choose none, because sometimes you don't want to clog up your deck. And then you move on to the next room, and then you see how your deck gets stronger and stronger over time. Now, I will say that I have played a lot of the video game version. I have on my phone. I play it a lot when I travel. Like when I'm sitting in the airport, I'm like, I'll play around Slay the Spire. And I find it a very enjoyable game. Like it's a great little deck builder. Now, I will say the RNG, the randomness of it, can be frustrating, and I would say that probably is going to be more so for the tabletop version, because with the video game version, when I have bad RNG, it's just like I get to reset and just do it again. Tabletop version, it's a little more work. It's like, okay, well, that is a roguelike, so you're going to be, if you lose, resetting takes a bit of work. Like you got to do a little bit of sorting, you got to do a little bit of shuffling. So yeah, it's a bit of a downside with it, is the fact that, yeah, it's a roguelike, doesn't transfer to the tabletop as well, because like when I'm playing a roguelike on the PC or on my phone, it's just when you lose, just hit the start button again and you're ready to go. Well, with Slay the Spire or with the board game, you got to do a little bit of work. But I'm going to talk about the main pro of this game is the fact that now you can play it co-op. So the video game version is solo only, does it really well, but with the board game version, you can now play it co-op with all the characters in the game, it's an amazing achievement with this. Like, I love the fact that you can have each one of the characters, and they did a really good job of making it a cooperative experience. It's not necessarily that you're playing multiplayer solitaire. I mean, everyone is kind of doing their own thing, but usually you're trying to figure out, okay, how much damage are you going to be taking this turn? So we need to try to take care of your row, because that guy's going to damage all of us, and then these other guys, you're going to take a little too much damage, and we need to keep your health high for the next room. And then we probably need to worry about debuffing some of these guys down in this bottom row here, so we can get ready for the next round. And then also you can upgrade your basic block cards to block for anybody, and it does a really good job of getting players to cooperate and work together in this game. Now, there's only one main downside of this, is that the video game has a lot going on. There's a lot of upkeep, but it does it all for you. Now, with the board game version, they simplified a lot of the upkeep. They reduced the numbers on a lot of things. They changed how the relics work to make them a little easier to manage. But it is still a little fiddly. Like, I forgot to activate relics all the time. There's like, once you get to a certain point, it's just I started forgetting which ones I had and which ones to activate, and I would forget to do my like beginning of combat setup, or like get +1 strength for the first round or something. So there are things that are just fiddly about this. And then every room you go into, you gotta go and select out or deal out the enemies, and you may have to go and search for specific enemies, depending on what happens with that first draw. So there is some fiddliness to this game. But I would say it's not like overwhelming. It's nowhere near the fiddliness of some other co-ops I've played, and it's reasonable. Now, I will say that it helps to have multiple people that know exactly what's going on, so everyone can kind of help out with all those things, keeping track of the tokens going on the monsters, and when to remove the tokens, and when to do, all sorts of things. But overall, I do really like Slay the Spire. I like the video game, and I love having it as a co-op version on the tabletop. I don't think I'd recommend this as a solo, because the video game version exists. The only reason that you might want to get it solo is if you're someone that's trying to, disconnect a little more, get off the PC, get off the phone a little more, and you just want to have it as a solo tabletop game. I think there's better games you could do for that, but there's also worse games you could do. So, you know, and also you'd have the option to play it co-op whenever you want, which is great. So Slay the Spire, it's great. It's very expensive though, which is kind of the downside, and it is a very, very large box. So I do really like it, and yeah, I would recommend Slay the Spire, especially if you do like the video game version. Okay, next up is on to a newer one that I was super excited about, and this is Leviathan Wilds. So Leviathan Wilds has been compared to an older game, another video game called Shadow of the Colossus, if anyone's ever played that. That's where you're climbing these massive beasts, and basically Shadow of the Colossus, I think you're trying to eliminate them. But Leviathan Wilds is a little friendlier. You're just trying to clear off some crystals that are corrupting these monsters, or these giants, basically. I shouldn't call them monsters. That's mean to them. They're not monsters. They just are corrupted by evil. So you're trying to take care of these crystals that are corrupting these things. So you are climbing up these massive creatures and trying to clear off those crystals on this spatial puzzle. So with this game, the way you're going to do the setup is that it has a scenario book that you're going to open up to the next scenario on, and then you are going to choose I think your class and your character, and you can bind those cards. I think your character only comes with like 1 or 2 cards, and then your class is the majority of your deck, and you shuffle those guys together, put them down, and that represents your grip strength. You're also going to draw, I think it's, I want to say 3 cards, and then it's 3 or 4. Don't quote me on that one. And then essentially on your turn, you reveal a threat. So this is kind of cool because you get to see how the giant is going to react to you, basically, how they're going to try to attack you or get you off. And then you're going to have your cards where you have to play 1 as like your action points, and because they're dual use cards, so you have a certain number of action points in the corner, or you use them for their abilities. And they're balanced like every other game. You know, like one with a lot of action points tends to have a really good ability, but you have to choose, do you want it for the action points or do you want it for its ability? So that's kind of the basic gist of the game. Now, on your turn, you're basically going to be climbing up this creature and trying to get to those crystals, occasionally gathering mushrooms for some bonuses. There's some spots on the board that are going to be take damage or lose grip, and whenever you lose grip, you just take a card from your draw deck and put it out there. If you ever run out of grip, you're falling, which is an interesting aspect because it does do a good job of representing the verticalness of what you're doing, right? Like you are climbing, and you are at risk of falling if you're climbing, right? Like that's one of those things. But now there's going to be ledges up there that you can kind of climb onto, and that's where you can get a little bit of a breather and take a break. And you can do things like heal and refresh your grip deck on that, and then you can work your way up to the next ledge and then work your way up to the crystal that you're going to be taking out. Now, the game also you have basically 2 health bars, or actually 2 tokens on your health bar that are moving in opposite directions. You're going to be taking damage, which is going to make you lose health, but you're also going to be taking corruption, which is going to move your corruption marker. If your corruption marker and your health marker ever cross, your guy's out of it. So, and I find that a lot of times, so health is pretty easy. You can heal that. It's pretty easy to recover your health, but corruption, once you get it, you're stuck with the corruption. So preventing corruption is a huge part of the game, and corruption itself is kind of the game's timer. So there's going to be cards where you're just not going to be able to block corruption, and it's going to kind of just push you into the more and more dangerous zone of having to manage your health a little more critically. So with this, it kind of drives you towards that end game because you're just going to be building up that corruption. You're going to have to try to speed up your process of taking care of those crystals. And I think this is great because I think all co-op games kind of need that time pressure. And they did a good job with managing this time pressure in this game with that corruption mechanic. I will also say that it's a bit frustrating because some of the crystals are going to give you corruption. There's purple and blue crystals, and the blue crystals, if you hit them, they will give you corruption. And then they're going to give you corruption every time you hit them. So if you hit them multiple times, you're going to be taking multiple corruption, and that can be really bad for you. But there are going to be some cards that will protect you from corruption when you strike them. And those cards are, I think, some of the most important cards in your deck. You're probably going to be grabbing them and trying to hold on to them in your hand for a little while until you can go up and hit that blue crystal, because avoiding taking corruption is seems super important to me. But that kind of, yeah, it's a bit annoying because like it does have this thing where, yeah, you have a specific card you're looking for and digging through your grip. You don't have a huge deck though, so it's not a huge deal, but it's not something that I really enjoyed about the game. So let me get into kind of my thoughts on Leviathan Wilds. Like I said, I was really looking forward to this one, and I think it's a well done co-op. This kind of lands in the unmatched adventure stealth semis for me. This is a really well designed game. I think that they did a good job with the kind of the vertical aspect of it and the climbing and being able to let go and glide down to other ledges and stuff. And the movement it's interesting. Now, things I didn't love about this is that the characters, yeah, they're different, but I personally didn't feel that they were unique. I've seen some other reviews that talk about the characters and they're like, oh, each one of these has their own little gimmick that they're doing, but this is one thing where I just didn't see past. It's the subjectivity of it, where I didn't see past that. I was just doing. It was either I'm moving or I'm hitting things. Like that's the actions that I have available to me. I either move up the thing, or I glide down the thing, or I hit the thing, or I have different options for block. But everyone does have a slightly different gimmick of how you do those actions. Some of them have like you can jump a space, which is super beneficial. So there is differences in the characters, but overall you're really doing two actions. You're moving or you're hitting. Like those are the two main things that you're trying to do in the game. So because of that, the variability in the characters just it didn't really seem to matter that much to me. But I've only played two of the characters. I've only played two of the scenarios, so I can't really fully state that yeah, they wouldn't come out if I played it more. But yeah, it's just one of these games where I think the puzzle's really good. I like the ideas in the game, and there was nothing that was exciting to me. Like there was the puzzle worked really well, but there was nothing that stands out to me in the game as being like, oh, that was a really cool moment or whatever. It was a little too deterministic, I think, for me because of it's just kind of like, okay, well, I need to do 5 damage to this crystal, so I need to climb up this way. I know how the creature's going to attack, so this is how I can avoid the attack or minimize the amount of damage I'm going to take. So there was a lot of things that were a little too calculating for me and a little too deterministic to have any moments that really stood out, because I find that some co-ops, they need some of those random elements to kind of drive those big moments in the game. And Leviathan Wilds, it didn't have a big moment for me. Now, like I said, only played 2 scenarios. That could change over time. And I do think this is a really well-designed co-op game. I only played it at 2 players. I also think that this might be better at 3, because then, like, at 2 players, I didn't really feel like it was too much of a co-op. We're almost playing multiplayer solitaire because we're on opposite sides of the creature, trying to take care of our own pass. We weren't really helping each other out too much because there wasn't really any way for us to assist the other person. I think at 3 and maybe even 4, like getting more people on the creature where you can inadvertently be in someone's like splash zone of the creature's attack, and there's going to be a little more randomness and wildness happening with the 3 and 4 people out there. That could make the game a little more interesting. And I don't think it would slow down the game too much because turns are pretty easy. They're pretty quick. Like nothing's super complicated in the game to manage. So that could be a possible thing to explore in the game later, but I still just don't think there's anything that's going to really stand out in this. And I'm going to have a little bit more to say right after I talk about my next game. Okay, so let's close out on Leviathan Wilds. It's like, let's just end it at, I think it is a great co-op design. It has a cool spatial puzzle, but just no amazing moments for me in the game. The next game I'm going to talk about is going to be Freedom 5. So Freedom 5 is a game where you're going to be playing as a superhero, and there's a city, and a bunch of henchmen are going to be showing up at the city, and you're going to be taking out the henchmen, and there's also going to be some villains that come up that are going to be like the big bosses in the game. And this is going to happen over 3 chapters. So you're going to be, or 3 acts or whatever, in the basically comic book that you're playing. this is a pandemic style game, so essentially you're going to be putting out fires a lot. The henchmen there's 3 or 4 different colors of henchmen, and you're going to be placing out the different colors of henchmen, and your hero is going to be good at taking out certain henchmen and bad at taking out other henchmen. So you're going to be managing clearing off those, let's call them the henchmen are the contagions in this one, right? So you're trying to clear off those contagions and also eventually try to reach the victory conditions for the scenario that you're playing, which is usually going to be things like, oh, stop the boss character, right? So pretty straightforward system. I think that there's a lot going on in Freedom 5. None of it is too complicated. I do wish this game had better references for things. Like there's certain things that's like, oh, what happens when I run out of this color or a color of henchmen? What happens when I run out of anarchy tokens? What happens when I run out of mastermind tokens? What happens when I run out of bystander tokens? It's like, there's a lot of things. It's like when I can't place something due to running out of stock, like what do I do? It's usually the answer is move up on this mastermind track, which is like the countdown timer for the villains winning, basically. But I wish there was a better reference for just like, oh, this is the flow of the game. This is what happens when you, like, this is during this stage and this stage. The rulebook is very, very clear. I found the rulebook pretty easy to parse and learn the game. But yeah, it's one of these games where there's a lot going on and they needed to have references. And it's just, I think it's a huge miss to not have better references in this game. Okay, so on to the gameplay itself. So you're going to choose a hero, and your hero has some kind of unique things going on with it. It has a unique ability, and on the start of your turn, you can start in your private life. When you're in your private life, you're in your disguise, basically, and henchmen can't find you during this phase, so you can actually end your turn in your private life and not get hit by henchmen, because that's kind of the flow. Like, you're going to do your turns, and then you're going to do the villain phase where the henchmen will hit you if there's any in your space. But if you're in private life, you hide from them. They can't find you. They don't know you're there. So it's kind of neat that you're kind of managing this private life and superhero life. And there's actually going to be some things that play into that private life. Like there's going to be some personal tasks that show up during the game where it's going to be like, oh, you got to take care of this thing in your private life. And it's kind of like bringing up the thing that happens in all superhero movies where it's like, oh, you got to balance your private life with your superhero life and try to make sure things are working together. And I think it's cool that they incorporated that in this game. Now, the other things in the game are going to be that the henchmen, there's some weirdness in this game because you are a superhero, but it is incredibly hard for you to take out henchmen. Like I don't fully understand this from the thematic point of view, but essentially, if you're in a spot, you roll dice equal the number of henchmen in that location and equal to the number of the color of the henchmen that you're attacking, basically. So let's say there's 3 yellow henchmen, but you're not good at yellow, whatever yellow is. I forget. There's like mind, spirit, body, and something. Whatever yellow is, you're going to roll that. But let's say your character's bad at yellow, and you need to roll a 5+ to be able to hit them. That means your odds of taking out these henchmen are just, they're low. They're not good. And it just, you don't feel like a superhero in a lot of these cases. Like even the ones you're good at are usually like 3+. Usually you need like a 3+, so you have 50-50 odds of taking out henchmen, which still not good. It's like, shouldn't you be better at this? You have superpowers fighting just a normal henchman. Like, why are they so hard to kill? So I think that's a little bit frustrating, but the game is kind of focused on using your ability cards. I would say that attacking henchmen with dice is kind of the worst thing you can do. You tend to want to be using your ability cards in your deck to be able to clear those henchmen from the board, because most of them are going to be like, it just instantly take pieces off the board. So you don't have to roll the dice, you don't have the randomness. So yeah, it's kind of like the roll is kind of your last ditch effort, which is how I use it. It was kind of like, okay, I have 1 action left, there's a henchman here, let me do a roll and see if I take him out or not. But yeah, so I would say that does kind of make you feel a little bit weaker than maybe you should. Now, the other thing that happens is once the villains come out, you need these cards because the cards are dual use. There's either going to be some dice on them or an ability. You can use them for the dice or the ability. When you attack a villain, you need to have cards of the matching color of the villain, and then the cards will tell you how many dice you get to roll against that villain. So if there's a green villain out there, you might be saying, I need to collect green cards from my deck or kind of save them. You have a hand limit of 12, so you can actually save quite a few cards. You need to save those until you get into that villain space so you can be able to spend those cards, you commit the cards, and you gain the dice on those cards to be able to roll against that villain. And hopefully the villain is matched to your character a little bit because, yeah, like I said, if you have a 5+ on your success rate for a D6 and you're fighting the villain that's on that skill that you're not very good at, the odds of you hitting the villain are just low. And once again, this is that thing where it's like, shouldn't the hero be better at this? Now, I know this is all to manage kind of the odds and everything and to make the game playable. And this probably makes a little more sense in Pandemic, where it's like you're scientists and you're fighting a difficult disease. With this one, you're heroes, but you're not very good heroes, which is strange. But I do think that there are some things that came out in the game for me that I thought were cool. Like I was playing the Speedster for my person, and I found a cool combo in my deck where I had a card that would allow me to move 3 spaces and essentially allow me to take out 1 henchman from each space I move through. So basically I speed through the city, taking out these henchmen. And then I had these hug goggles, which would allow me to take a card from my discard and play it again, basically. So I would be like, oh, I'm moving through 3 spaces, taking out 3 villains. And then I play my HUD card, get that one back. I play it again, I move back through those spaces, take out 3 more villains. It's just like the speedster sweeping through the city, just clearing these villains off the board. So there are some cool kind of thematic elements with your person. Now, the downside with the heroes that you're playing is that I found the decks to be a little lackluster. There's not a whole lot of variability in them. You have a lot of repeat cards in your deck, which is kind of unfortunate because, you know, the game is based on the theme from Sentinels of the Multiverse, and each hero had its own unique deck, and I found that, and I've played it, I think I played that one a couple times, and it's each hero had kind of a pretty good amount of variability in its deck, and finding cool things to use in the deck was part of the fun of Sentinels of the Multiverse. With Freedom 5, there wasn't a huge deck to play with, and it just kind of was this thing where, yeah, after a few turns, it's like, oh, I think I've seen all the cards. And I think that's kind of unfortunate in this game, is that there was kind of a lack of variability in your hero and your play style. You did pick up some special cards during the game, which changed that up, and you also got to find some bystanders, which changed things up, gave you a few more options. But yeah, it does lack some of that kind of character variability that I like to see in co-ops. There's one other thing that stood out as being really annoying in the game, and that's the bystanders. So there was this thing where you could interact with bystander tokens because you're heroes in the city, and you know sometimes you find bystanders and they help the heroes out, or in this case, you find some bystanders and they're a bit of a jerk. They cause something negative to happen to you. They're like, oh, discard one of your ability cards or something. And I don't love these let's call them gotchas in decks. Like I don't like it when it's like, oh, this is a positive deck, except for sometimes. And it's like, well, why did you do this? Why didn't you just make it positive? Like, the game's already pretty hard. Why did you make this token that I'm interacting with on the map? Why did you make it kind of a random good or bad? I think it's mostly good, but it's like when you already have these random dice rolls, and it kind of sucks when you roll a bunch of low values on your dice, and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna go and find this bystander token, and the game just like kicks you in the face, and you're like, what was that for? Like, why did you do that? So I was a little bit irked by that with the bystander deck. I was like, why didn't you just make this a positive deck? That didn't make any sense to throw in those negatives into that deck. But not a huge deal. Just one of those pet peeves of mine. Now, the last thing I'll mention on this game is that it's long. So first game, played it at 2 players, and this took us, I think, about 3 hours. We both knew the rules going in, and so we both learned it ahead of time. So 3 hours was our play time. I think we can get that down, but we did lose, so we didn't actually play out the full scenario. So I think it still might come in around that 3 hour mark, but I think that even if we got better at it, it's probably going to be pushing that 2.5 hours for a play, which is a bit long for a co-op game. Not that I don't want to play long co-op games. I'm going to mention one in a minute here that is very long and I do really enjoy playing. So overall, sorry, I needed to mention versus Leviathan Wilds. this game I did enjoy. I actually do want to play this one more. I will admit that I want to play this one more than Leviathan Wilds. This one, I like. The dice are both frustrating and fun. The dice create moments of, they create memories. Like they're just good at creating memories. Like that's why D&D uses dice, is because they can create really highs and really lows. Like there was one moment where the person I was playing with, they went in for a big attack on the bill, and they're like, okay, I'm rolling 5 dice. I'm going to use my card that can do double damage, and if I roll 1s, I take damage, and if I roll like 5s and 6s, I do double damage to the enemy. Like this, I should be able to do something here. He rolls his dice. He rolls all 1s and 2s. It's both hilarious and absolutely frustrating. At that moment, it's kind of like, we probably lost because of this dice roll. Like it's probably over at this point. And it's just but it was memorable. It was like, wow, that was awful. That was so bad. Your hero just kind of whiffed it. Like they just totally bombed it. People are probably laughing at him in the streets because of this. But because of this, the Freedom 5, yeah, for me, it has some more memorable moments in the game than something like Leviathan Wilds, where it felt a little more deterministic. Okay, so yeah, wrapping up Freedom 5, it's a game that is long, fiddly, kind of not a whole lot of variability, or well, the hero decks don't have enough variability in it, but I enjoyed it. Like I do want to replay this one. I had a good time playing Freedom 5. So it's in this weird spot of I see a lot of flaws in Freedom 5, but it's something that I had fun doing and I want to play it again. Let me go on to let's do a bit of an intermission here. This is one, no more images, let's get rid of those. And I want to talk a little bit about Leviathan Wilds and Freedom 5 and mention another co-op game, because neither of these 2 games kind of fall into the category of co-ops that I don't necessarily love. Like I don't have a huge desire to play co-op games with kind of this full open information where I feel like I'm just kind of waiting for my turn to come around and nothing too exciting is happening. Leviathan Wilds is a game that I find to be really well designed. It has a really good system, but it just lacks that excitement for me with a co-op game. And the full open information just means that, yeah, I am just kind of waiting for my turn. Like it's just, okay, I'm done with my turn. Now let me just hang out while you do your turn. This is, I got nothing to really do, nothing to think about while that other turn is happening. It's like I probably already know what I'm doing on my next turn. There's nothing for me to plan. So playing it at 2 players, not a whole lot of waiting time. I think it'll probably be better at 3 players because you'll have more people on the map, but I just doubled my waiting time from 2 players. Playing it at 4 players, this is where I don't think I would enjoy the game anymore, because now I'm waiting 3 times as long as I was at the 2-player game to get to my turn. And I also have the problem where if someone moves near me, they may trigger an attack that hits me, and it'll kind of ruin my turn. So I've both planned my next turn, and then I've been foiled by my next turn in some cases, which I don't know. It just is not a system that I really enjoy in a co-op game. And then Freedom 5, this is where, once again, it has a lot of interesting things going on. There's almost too much going on, though. It's a game where I have enjoyed my play of it because of kind of that chaotic randomness with those dice. It's both frustrating and fun to me to be rolling dice. I like being able to figure out how to roll more dice and doing more damage. I find that enjoyable. I do think that the power balance with the heroes is a bit weird, because you don't feel very strong in the game even though you're a superhero, which is kind of that's a big miss, right? Like that's the theme of the game, but you feel like kind of just a slightly stronger human, I guess. Now, I do want to talk about a game that I think does it better than both these games, and that's Spirit Island. Like Spirit Island, I think they did a better job just with the AI system that you're fighting. So this is where it kind of reminds me a bit of Pandemic, where Spirit Island, you're adding the colonizers on the board, and you have this deck that you're flipping to telling you where they're going to spread to. Similar to the Pandemic system where, or the Freedom 5 system, where you're going to be flipping a scheme card and it's going to tell you where to add your henchmen, and then those henchmen will overrun to the neighboring areas if there's too many in one area. So it kind of has them spreading out. And this reminds me a bit of Spirit Island with kind of the expansion of the colonists that are moving onto the island. And so it has that very simple structure, but it's also adding that randomness. You don't exactly know where they're going to land. You don't exactly know how they're going to spread. You have an idea of what can happen, but you don't know exactly how things are going to play out. But now the next thing, and so Leviathan Wilds, they put a lot of the randomness into their scenario designs, which is good and bad. I kind of liked the fixed system of like Freedom 5 and the scheme cards, and Spirit Island with the Explorer deck. I think that kind of fixed AI is really good in the game, because now you can put all your variability into the characters, which is where the players have fun. I think that that's what I really enjoy. Like Spirit Island, it has so many different spirits, and each one of them feels radically different from the other one. Now, this is where Sentinels, while it has kind of so it has the Pandemic system, which I think is good, having that kind of controlled AI, I don't think it put enough variability into its characters. I think they could have been more like they all are unique, like they all have their own unique thing going on, but their decks are just kind of a little lackluster. I wish the decks had a little more, or maybe you could pick up some unique special cards for your character or something. It just didn't feel like there was enough variation in them. Whereas Spirit Island, like, yeah, the characters feel very different, and then you get to build them up over time and draw from those minor and major upgrade decks to then tune your spirit to your playstyle, which it's such a cool way to set up a game, is to put the players in control and put the players into that seat of driving the variability in the game, which is also where Leviathan Wilds kind of falls a little flat for me. So like I said, you do have the variable characters and classes that you have, and you're going to combine those in different ways, but I personally didn't find these to be super unique. And mainly it's because your actions are always the same. It's move and hit, move and hit, move and hit. Like because of that, it's like, yeah, okay, these other things that are kind of tagged onto these classes are just gimmicks, right? That's what they are. So they don't feel super unique because of that. Whereas Spirit Island, yeah, it's like, okay, I can either do pushes, I can do gathers, like everything's kind of similar, but it's like, okay, this spirit, I need to push them into the ocean, like ocean hungry grasp or whatever. You're going to be pushing them or pulling them into the ocean. You have gathers, which are going to gather the colonists in ones. You have things that will push them. You can destroy houses, you can push houses, you can downgrade cities. You can, if you have some of the expansions, you can add beasts, you can add the spike tokens, spread them from exploring, you can add plagues to the board. So there's so much kind of variability with what your character is able to do in Spirit Island, or your spirit is able to do in Spirit Island, that it allows the player to kind of explore the different ways of interacting with that kind of simple AI system that Spirit Island has. Whereas in Leviathan Wilds, they kind of split it. They split that variability. They gave you different scenarios to give you a variability with that climbing puzzle, and then they gave you a little bit of variability with your characters and gave you those little different gimmicks that you can do during the game. Now, if I was to recommend one of these, this is weird because I enjoyed playing Freedom 5 more than I enjoyed Leviathan Wilds. I think I would probably recommend Leviathan Wilds over Freedom 5 though, because I don't know, it depends on who you are and what you enjoy. Like I enjoyed the dice rolling and the putting out the fires in Freedom 5 more. Like I enjoyed kind of trying to manage those henchmen while trying to figure out a way to eventually strike the villain and to come up with that team up thing where we got to actually play the co-op game. Like I think I personally enjoy putting out those fires and rolling those dice more. Whereas Leviathan Wilds, I think it's a more streamlined game. It's easier to set up, easier to teach, easier to play, less fiddly, but it is also a little more deterministic, and it's a little more controlled, and no peaks and valleys from any of my plays. And for me, that's a negative in a game. Like it doesn't have anything that stands out. It's just kind of it's a smooth experience. And then I recommend Spirit Island over both of them. Although Spirit Island is going to be a little more complex than Leviathan Wilds. It's going to have a longer play time. I think Spirit Island probably plays better at 2 or 3, whereas Leviathan Wilds seems like it's going to be better at, I want to say 3 and 4. 2 didn't feel like there was enough on the board, so 3 and 4 seems like it's probably going to be better. And Leviathan Wilds is going to play quicker than Spirit Island, which I think is a huge pro. But I like Spirit Island's just, for me, still kind of that, it's not my favorite co-op. It's a really good one that I just enjoy more than both of these other games, and I think it's just better designed. I think that it's great that it put all the variability on the player side, which is where I want my variability in a co-op game. So I can play around with those puzzles that I have in front of me. I have a unique puzzle that I'm playing with, which is fantastic. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say on Leviathan Wilds and Freedom 5 for now. That's kind of a lot. I don't know. Hopefully you followed all that. These two games fall into this genre that it's like I'm not crazy about them. I can have fun playing them, and I do like seeing how different designers approach the problem of kind of player agency and randomness in the game to provide that puzzle, because you're no longer playing against a player. So designing that AI system is very challenging. So that'll do it on my kind of long rant about these two co-op games. Let's move on to something more exciting for the finale here, and let's talk about a co-op game that is higher than all of the co-op games I've stated so far, and that is going to be Bomb Busters. I think Bomb Busters is just a phenomenal design. I really like it. So Bomb Busters is a deduction game. Everyone's going to have a little tray in front of them, and then that tray is going to have a bunch of numbered wires on it. And your goal in Bomb Busters is basically to be able to cut those wires. Now, if you have the same number on your board, you can do a single cut as long as they're right next to each other. You can just take those 2 tokens off and cut them. But most of the time, you're going to be trying to find the matching wire on another player's board. You have these tokens out there that can kind of tell you, like, this is your, I don't know, highest, or you can put out one number. You can kind of identify one for a player at the beginning of the game, and there's might be ways to bring out more tokens. But essentially, you give everyone a little bit of information at the beginning of the game. And then from that, people are trying to guess what tokens you have on your board. And they're trying to say, okay, is that token a 5? And then if you have a matching 5 and you have identified their 5, you both take that off and you cut a wire. Great. But there's going to be yellow wires out there, which are medium dangerous, basically. They kind of throw off the deduction puzzle a little bit, because generally the blue wires, they're numbered, I think, 1 to 12, and they're just integers. Now the yellow wires, I think, are, I want to say 0.1, so it'll be like a 7.1 or something. So that'll throw off someone's deduction puzzle if you have a yellow wire. The dangerous one, though, is going to be the red wires. So basically your goal in the later scenarios, so the first scenarios, they don't add them in, they kind of just ease you into the game. But once you get to that red wire, your goal is to not cut that until the end of the game. You want to kind of get reduced down to that red wire and make that your final cut in the game. Now, there's some cool stuff going on here where you do have some character abilities where you get to do like a double cut or double guess or something. And then there's also some tools that you can unlock during the round to kind of help you out with that deduction puzzle, give you some special abilities to improve your ability to figure out what a wire is, or give you a bonus guess. Like you can guess once, and if you were wrong, like you can flip a card and be like, okay, I didn't guess that one. Let me guess this one over here. But overall, this is just a really, really well-designed co-op deduction puzzle. First off, I love deduction games. I think they're fantastic, and putting this into a co-op game, it's a great fit. It's kind of like, and this is the category of co-op games that I love the most. Like, I love these games with hidden information, so you are trying to, it's probably where it's becoming a bit versus, right? Like you are trying to, you got to work on your behavioral model for the players around the table. You got to be like, oh, what's that player thinking? And what's that player thinking? And what's that player thinking? So this is something you have to do in a versus game all the time. You have to think, like, what is their strategy? What do they value in this game? And you're trying to figure that out so you can kind of plan your moves around what the other players value. And usually you're trying to take advantage of your guessing of what another player wants to do. In a versus game, you're trying to like figure out what they want to do so you can block them or stop them or get an advantage for yourself by knowing that information. But in this type of co-op game with hidden information, you're trying to take that information to align with them. You're trying to say, oh, that's your strategy, so I'm going to align with that strategy, and we're going to work together on this. Like, I think I figured out your mindset in this game, so now I think we can plan things together and work together. And I think that it's really cool when you have a game where this happens. Like, I think it's fun to try to suss out what somebody's own strategy and what their thought process is. So yeah, Bomb Busters is just it's firing all cylinders for me. It lands in that category of co-ops that I really like. It also includes deduction, has a bunch of variability with, I think, 66 scenarios in the box. I've only played like 4 of them because we keep introducing new people, so we keep playing the beginning ones, and I still have a really fun time playing these beginning ones. I think that those are fantastic, and I'm excited to see how this game expands as we kind of manage to find a consistent group and continue working through those scenarios. So yeah, Bomb Busters is going to be my highlight of this video. Okay, so that's going to do it for my hot takes today. I hope that this was somewhat helpful for you. Now, just as a recap, I like to do a recap at the end of these, just to give you the high-level overview. Skyrockets, I really like it. It's a real-time co-op game, throwing down cards. But I do think that Kites is probably a better version of Skyrockets, even though it's the first version. I think it's fun because, like, Kites you can just pull out and play a quick round of. You can also do that with Skyrockets, but it's a little more confusing if you need to refresh yourself on the rules and you're like, oh, what scenario do you want to choose? So yeah, there's pros and cons to it. I want to revisit, still want to play it again, but Kites is probably the better intro to that real-time co-op one. Slay the Spire, this is, I love the video game, and I love that you can play it co-op. I think that's the reason to try out Slay the Spire, the board game, is if you want to play it co-op. Like, that's, yeah, done. Leviathan Wilds, I think this is a really well-designed puzzle. It has a really cool spatial element with that vertical climbing and the falling and the gliding, and all the elements of this are really good. I just found it a little lackluster. I didn't find anything too exciting for me. I will mention that I think Efka on Talk Cardboard podcast talked about how he found the game incredibly thematic. It might have been an NPI video review, I can't remember exactly, but I just remember watching his, and he found the game incredibly engaging and as a very thematic experience. That didn't happen for me. So once again, games are subjective. Everyone's gonna have a different experience based on their background and what they've encountered in the past and what they can visualize in their minds, right? Leviathan Wilds, the theme didn't really come out for me. It ended up just being kind of an abstract spatial puzzle. That's kind of how I felt about it. But other people, I do think that this is a well-designed game, and if you think that you can kind of get into that theme, then this might be a hit for you. Freedom 5, this is one where I got into the theme a little bit more than Leviathan Wilds. I felt like I was playing as a speedster, and I was moving around the city, taking out these henchmen. I felt like I was a speedster. So I really enjoyed some of those aspects of it. I liked the dice rolling and the randomness when that came up, because you get these high highs and these low lows, which create those memorable moments in the game. I do think it goes on a bit long. I kind of wish they had some speedy scenarios in Freedom 5, because I think 3 hours is definitely a long time to be playing the same game, especially when you have a hero where the deck is kind of, once you go through it, you're like, okay, I've seen everything. What else can I do? So there's definitely some negatives with Freedom 5, but I am interested in playing it again. Like, I thought it was a neat game, a neat system, and I found it pretty engaging, and I just found it to have some more memorable moments than like Freedom 5. But as I mentioned, I still would recommend Spirit Island over both of them. I've put these games kind of in the same category in my mind. Like, they're these abstract puzzles, unless you can kind of get into that theme. If you can get into that theme, then great. If not, you're probably just going to see it as a bit of an abstract puzzle. And I think Spirit Island just does it better with their simple AI system and the amount of variability they give you with those characters. Like, I think that's kind of what makes the game shine. And I think that's lacking in kind of the other two games, in Leviathan Wilds and Freedom 5. Like, there is a little bit of variability, but they don't feel radically different all the time. Whereas Spirit Island, I feel like every time I choose a spirit, it is radically different, and I'm also gaining extra cards, which are radically changing how I play the game. So yeah, that was my little intermission on kind of this style of co-op game. Lastly, Bomb Busters, I love it. Deduction, hidden information, trying to figure out someone else's goals and behavior during the game. fantastic. I really, really like Bomb Busters and am excited to revisit that one. Okay, so that's going to do it for my hot takes this Friday. This was a longer one. I think I like ranting about co-op games. So, you know, there you go. It is what it is. If you want to hear more ranting about my co-op games, then check out the co-op Paradox video that I have. That one seems to have gotten a lot of views. So there you go. But as always, thanks for watching and thanks for spending your time with me. I definitely appreciate it. And yeah, I'll be talking to you next time.